I think you would have got a sense that the discipline is not really just a discipline, it's almost transdisciplinary. And some of the issues that have arisen are because of the disciplinary location of archaeology and the unfortunate fact, you can say, that it was not encouraged to be a separate discipline or let's say a separate subject at the school level where students could have been introduced to it. But archaeology is a discipline of things and essentially deals with materiality, which makes it very different from the focus that history has. And I think it would be, and it's very obvious how it can very quickly become political. And I'm sure many of you know that in the very recent past, and in fact right up to now, there are several issues that are arising because of the role that archaeology has played. So I now open just a few questions because we're already, I think, quite out of time. So any questions from the students?
Whoever has more questions, let's discuss them over lunch, because then the next session will get really delayed. Okay, so the first question was about correlation between material remains and texts. The thing is that we have to realize that while the texts may be there, very often they talk about things which are very different from what material remains one finds. And I'll give you the example of Mandu, for example. Now, in the case of Mandu, it's a medieval archaeology project. There are two texts, that were produced in Mandu itself. The Nimatnama, which is largely talking about preparation of food and herbs and all that. It has really not telling us anything about Mandu. And then the other is this Jaina Sutra, Kalpa Sutra, which again is talking about the philosophy of Jainism, not giving us any information about Mandu per se. So while we are doing this project, and there are some inscriptions of the Paramar period, but again they tell us very little. So by and large, up till late medieval period, even early modern, I would say, there is very little information that one actually gets from the text. And of course, wherever we can get, we try and glean that. But this thing of correlation doesn't quite work. The idea is to supplement it and then see, what is it telling us and what is the material, what are the material remains telling us. So that is one thing about, and this is the mistake that was made by traditional historical archaeologists in India. I'm not going to get into it, but this whole project, Archeology Mahabharata, Archeology Ramayana, and you know where that led us. So let's not get into that. Now this second question that talked about shifting across periods. What happens is that if, say for example, when you are beginning your research as a PhD student, which is a luxury we didn't have because we knew that we were in the ancient stream, we will do our PhD in the ancient period. You can, through coursework, and it's not as though you do an archaeology of something which is going to span, let's say, millennia. What you do, and therefore the focus is also now, when you do archaeology, is to shift to a theme rather than a time period. And generally these themes are specific to a period and to a region or a micro region. And you then, through coursework, develop those skills that you require. So for example, I'll give you a specific case of Mudit Trivedi, who was a student here at CHS in the ancient stream. For his MPhil, did a study on Kaushambi. In fact, for his MA seminar paper, he looked at the tools that were found, because at that time there was a lot of buildings being constructed in JNU, and as they were excavating the foundations, he found lots of stone tools. So his MA seminar paper was on stone tools. For his MPhil dissertation, he worked on Kaushambi, early history, because he was from the ancient period, but then went on to do a PhD abroad, which was on a site called Indore in Rajasthan, and that is on the late medieval period. What he therefore had to do, he had to learn Persian, because he had to read the inscriptions that were there on the gravestones. But he could do it because he had thought of this project while doing his PhD. So you have to therefore get trained in that. Kiridi excavations, I would kind of link it up with the question of politics. You see, any discipline has its politics. And nationalism is a very important part, whether it's history writing, whether it's textbook writing, whether it is archaeology. In the case of Kiridi excavations, they are very important. But again, we cannot try and make the same mistake of trying to correlate it with the Shangam period. Because the Shangam period are talking about certain issues and themes which are not really going to be answered by the Kiridi excavation. So we should look at the excavations and try and understand the data that is coming out and analyze that. But unfortunately what happens is that it's either nationalism or issues of subnationalism that get embroiled. In the case of Kiridi, it's the issue of subnationalism, Tamil nationalism, where the attempt is to show that they had a script which perhaps predated the Ashokan script, or the Ain, many of the sites that are being excavated, the dates they are getting, that they had an Ain age in South India which was earlier than, so then there are these issues of subnationalism. So we have to understand and we have to separate, and as students of archaeology and history, we know very well how to do that. And so in a way, this is obvious. There will always be all research. There's no research as neutral research. Politics is part of it, but we have to understand those politics behind it. And as students of history and archaeology, I think we are well trained to uncover those. Rest of the questions I'll take while we are having lunch. Thank you very much.